welcome to the Gay Uncle Podcast. We are here again at the Pocket Theater, the generous Pocket Theater that allows us to record this show for your listening enjoyment. Excuse me, I have a little bit of the winter, the frog in the throat thing going on, so hopefully that won't matter. But I'm not going to do most of the talking today, even though I have lots on my mind. And I want to share all of it. But I won't do that because I have somebody even more interesting here. I have my special guest today. Last time we had a musical guest, and we have another musical guest today. It's all music all the time here at the Gay Uncle Podcast, at least for a couple of weeks. So would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my pleasure. I am Jianda Monique, and I am a transformative artist and artist coach.
Wow, that is... transformative. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes, in my thinking, transformative is like an alchemy, like a process where you change and everyone you interact with changes. You both leave or enter changed.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. So, and when you say you're an artist, what is your art?
Well, my modes of creativity.
That's what I wanted to say. Your modes. What are your modes of creativity? I want to sound better.
Same thing, honey bun. It's music. It's writing primarily, but I also consider living in art. I study metaphysics, and so I feel like we're all creators, and our creations manifest in myriad forms.
I think living is an art too.
Yeah.
I really think it's I don't understand why we don't consider it more of an art all of the time. Every day that we get up, we're creating our life. Are we not?
We are. I agree.
We're making decisions on what we want to do, what needs to be done, what materials we have to do those things.
Yes.
How we interact with other people.
Definitely.
So I have had the pleasure of working with you several times. I don't even know how many times now, but several times, and I find you just absolutely a mesmerizing performer. You've sang, played your guitar, done some music.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing that?
I have been doing it for at least 2 decades, I will say. Many, many years. Since grade school, for sure. I started primarily as a writer when I was knee-high, 8, writing poetry and songs and short stories, and then that sort of evolved into music around grade school, maybe age 13 or so. I really started picking up a guitar and getting more into my musicality in life. So a long time. Did you
get training on the guitar, or did you?
I've had minimal training.
Okay.
I took some training in college, and learned a little bit on my own, but I don't read music very well or very quickly.
Okay.
It's still a goal.
Wow. So when you write your own stuff, how do you do that if you don't read music? Do you just memorize it?
I memorize it. I know chord patterns and formations, and there's a way of shorthand for guitarists that can look at something visually. It's called tabs, or you can see chord charts that tell you the fingering. If you practice it enough, it becomes innate, and you can elaborate and expand upon those formations and progressions.
Wow, I've never been able to pick up the guitar. I wanted to play every instrument, but why was it the guitar that you picked up instead of the oboe or the cello?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I was younger, before the guitar, I know I sang, and I also did a little flute in school, and just one thing led to another, and I just asked for a guitar for my birthday, and I got one of those very rinky-dink, really inexpensive, almost a toy guitar, and I just really took to it. It's a real versatile, flexible, portable instrument, and as I've matured, I realize, my great-grandmother played guitar, and
is that right?
Yeah, she played guitar. She owned a juke joint. She's from Oklahoma.
What?
Yes, and I never really got to know that story because she turned pious and everything by the time I was coming up. So I can only imagine her stories, which is kind of cool because I never got to see that side of her. I got to see a very stern Christian woman, and I want to be very Alice Walker or Toni Morrison and just imagine these landscapes of her life. But she was really good at the guitar.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. I'd
Yeah.
love to know more about that too. And that seems to be she's not alone in that in having one life and then later on in life becoming very pious, very Christian,
Yes.
and disowning all of that
Right.
came before. I have mixed feelings about that. I find it sad because I think everybody should live a wild life their entire life, but I also respect that people go through changes. And,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
who knows what's right for one person? But
Yeah.
so, but I also find it interesting she played the guitar because for so many, it seems like, and I don't know what years we're talking about, but it's for my understanding is that for many years, the piano was the main instrument for writing music in popular song, and that it was I think in the 60s, or maybe it was earlier than that it became the guitar, and it changed how music was written. It changed how songs were made. It changed the structure of songs. And I like it all. I like as I said at the last show, I love every genre of music. There's not really one that I don't. Some I like a little bit more than others, but there's everyone that I like. But there is a real difference in the music of the 40s and the 30s to the music of the 60s and the 70s. The way songs are made are different. I'm just wondering what influences you had. Who did you listen to that it really resonated with you?
Yeah, that's a great question too, Jeffrey. Really,
well, that's my job, is to come up with the great questions.
Yeah, just the way you phrase that. I do enjoy all genres of music too, and as a kid, I listened to many colors of music and types because my dad was a musician. He was a jazz musician, but he also really loved soul, and he loved classical music. And he loved the pop stuff on the radio. Like we'd sing the Bee Gees together and just random disco stuff together. He was like a little kid when the music would come on, you know? And so I have all those colors of interest in and trust in various kinds of music. I didn't really ever have that genre prejudice about different genres. I just really was interested in the musicality of everything. So it's very hard for me to pick favorites growing up because I feel like it was so many things, but there are many types of music that speak to me now and have over the years, like bebop jazz really speaks to me because it's playful, but it's also rooted in the genre of jazz, which was also kind of influenced from blues and classical. So it was kind of a hip-hop of its time with a little bit of musicianship thrown in there too. Hip-hop musicianship is just a different kind, a little bit more reliant on the technology, and it's more portable. But all of this, like I don't know that it's certainly not exclusive to African Americans, but I can only speak from that, and it's a griot experience, like the traveling African singer or the bard, you know, in the English tradition. It's just, we've always had that desire to travel and tell stories, and, you know, I tend to like atypical hybrid singers like Jeff Buckley was very much a hybrid artist. He was very bluesy and also really rooted in rock and metal.
Right.
And he looked, I mean, one of his album titles or bootlegs was called Mystery White Boy, I think, or something. But he was very complex, and I think he had many queer aspects that he didn't really fully express.
Yeah.
I just like artists and types of music that make me feel very deeply and think very deeply and feel transformative, almost uplifting.
So it sounds like, first of all, it sounds like your dad and I would like hit it off. But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I just love the way you described his musical taste there. But so you got a lot of exposure through him. It sounds like both live music and maybe through records. And were you a radio listener when you were growing up? Or?
All the time. Sometimes we would just get in his truck and I would run errands with him and he would just have the radio blasting. And, you know, remember AM too?
I remember AM. Oh,
when they played music.
When they played music. And then my growing up for me, AM radio was really, really big. FM radio was also big, but one of the things about AM radio is that is not true of, and I don't listen, I have to say I don't listen to a lot of commercial radio now. I listen to like the public radio stations, and in Seattle we have KEXP and we have KBCS, and I listen to a lot of that, and I listen to music online, but the AM radio stations, it was just this hodgepodge of music. So you'd hear like a soul song, then you'd hear like a rock song, and then you'd hear like, I mean, it was all pop music and it was all top 40, but it was from all different areas. So I liked that. I liked that a lot. I definitely had my preferences for what I really, really, really liked. But I liked it all. I loved it. I loved the singer-songwriters, the guitars. But soul music was probably my favorite music of all. And I liked rock music a lot too. I liked some of the harder rock stuff. And remember being like listening to Led Zeppelin was a rite of passage when I was in junior high school. So it was it was. I liked it all. But as far as listening to the radio when you were younger, did you try to emulate some of those songs? Or
Definitely. I really took a shine to singer-songwriters too. I felt like it was very always healing to me to hear stories, people's lives, like James Taylor or Carole King. Just so many people who shared their personal narratives and really took you there because the music was so deep and rich. And even the Beatles, they had their singer-songwriter sides, those intimate guitar songs, and, George, all of them. Even Ringo with his playful, personal narratives. And it really trained me and helped me become accustomed to feeling okay with telling stories in that way. It's only been recently that I've claimed the ability to do it personally, but I was really big on covering. Like, I've performed for many, many years, but the majority of the songs I did were cover songs, and I really would feel those songs, and they would help me travel to places and speak stories and feel confidences that I just wasn't really ready to hold on to. So I really owe a lot to all of these musicians who've influenced me and still do.
what were some of the songs that you covered?
I covered a lot of Beatles songs, like I covered Michelle. I covered, there's a song by the Church called Under the Milky Way that I covered. I did a lot of Concrete Blonde songs, like 90s, Toad the Wet Sprocket songs.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like stuff that you would hear on the radio that I know people would appeal to, but also stuff that made people think. So a lot of the covers I did were kind of obscure, so sometimes people would think they were my songs because they just they couldn't always quite identify them. But then, especially when I was playing a lot of college gigs when I was in college, people would really resonate. They would recognize the songs, and then I would, build relationships and friendships by those people who would also, it's like bedroom theater, headphone masterpiece. You're listening to this alone in your room or with your lover or with your friends. And the personal narrative in a song, it is really universal. I don't think it's this navel gazing that people accuse it of being, because it really helps people to. It's like those. It's like Twister. You're putting your hands and feet on these little figures, and it gives you permission to take those steps and even play. So it's. I was just talking about how beautiful cover songs are the other day with a friend. They really allow us to feel feelings and feel safe and feel comfortable about them. And hearing different musicians cover them, it's a new resurgence that's happening. And among musicians always say, "Oh, that's so cheesy. Why don't you do your own stuff?" But people are really kind of coming to realize the value in cover songs. And Bob Marley started doing covers before he did his stuff. The Beatles did. So this cheeky stuff that Ryan Adams is doing covering Taylor Swift, there's some alchemy there that people aren't necessarily hip to, but we feel it.
I think it's a relatively recent. I might be wrong. I'm not the best music historian, although I'm a huge music buff. But I think that the singer-songwriters, the people who wrote their songs and then recorded their songs, became known for their songs. I think that was a fairly recent, by recent I mean 60s and 70s. But before that, there were people who were the songwriters who wrote the songs that other people went and recorded. And lots of other people would record them. Somebody would have the biggest hit with it, but at the same time there might be 5 or 6 groups that had recorded it, and some of those would also chart. And then we just started thinking of music as something that somebody does the whole process. They write the song, they play the music on the song, they in the case of Prince, when Prince started, he played all of the music on the albums and did everything for a while. And just kind of blew that up even more. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with being somebody who covers other people's songs or even records a singer song. Even during the singer-songwriter period, I know that there are people who made a distinction between somebody like Joni Mitchell, who wrote most of her stuff and recorded, and somebody like Judy Collins, who recorded mainly other people's music.
Yeah.
And some people would make a distinction. They're both amazing artists.
Thank
amazing.
You. Yeah, it's great to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. I just read, there's a lot of musical biographies out right now that I'm loving. I'm loving it. A lot of them by women who were innovators. But I read one of the last Judy Collins book that she wrote. God, it's a great book. It's a good read. I love Judy Collins.
I would love to check that out. Yeah, she is fabulous.
Man, she's amazing. Beautiful, beautiful woman. So you mentioned when you were talking about Jeff Buckley, that the queer part of Jeff Buckley. And I just wonder if you could talk a little about queerness in music, how you discovered it, what it means to you, if there's any artists that you think exemplify that.
Sure. And I should be careful because I don't know if Jeff Buckley was ever out or anything like that or what his real preferences were, but just the way he articulated. Right. And he called himself mockingly a chanteuse, and he was very LGBT affirming, even if he wasn't. And so that speaks to me a lot. But in terms of queer expression in music, I know I resonated to artists who just didn't quite fit the mold when I was growing up, and I didn't understand why or what it was. For instance, Freddie Mercury or David Bowie, even artists like Joan Armatrading, who just maybe they were out or maybe they weren't out, but they just had that extra something. And I know the definition of what queer is very malleable these days. There's no real one identifier, but it came from a pejorative term. There's something queer about that one, and it's been used as a word of violence. So in order to reclaim it, many people who identify as LGBTQ, somewhere on these spectrums of expression, have claimed it. So musically, I've just heard it over the time, and it really seemed like there was a sprouting of queerness in the 70s. Disco is just really easy for me to cite because so many African American artists or artists of color and out gay musicians felt very safe in those spaces. And it really mixed a lot of soul. It really, a lot of disco was live. People would play it live. Right. And genres would bleed into each other like funk and jazz. It was very inclusive. And that's the part of being queer that I resonate with, is that it's inclusive. Some people who maybe identify as gay only or lesbian only might call themselves queer, just as shorthand or in order to be more affirming. I don't prefer to adhere to politics as much as what I prefer is the personal as political. So even though I use that word, I feel like we have the right to express that individually. And musically, I feel like queer culture, queer spaces, the choice of being different, looking different, whether you're peacocking or you're looking more like a male if you're a female born or something. These are choices that allow us to individuate, and we might experiment with things and then become more normative as time goes by, and that's fine. That's what we are. We're organisms. We have the right to play, and we have the right to choose who we want to love and who we want to make love with. And over time, especially Western culture, restricts that expression for any number of reasons, depending on the era. So, and even now in music, queerness is, there are so many gay and lesbian or queer or trans folks who are hairdressers or stylists or who are supporting the music, right. And always have been. Right. There's always been that artistic expression. And so even as I'm unfolding what it means to me, and I feel frustrated having to quantify it to people when I don't quite know what it means myself, really it means I love who I love, and it's just not normative. It doesn't present as normative. Like I know I date men and women and people who don't define themselves with a gender, and I know oftentimes when I will be in a relationship with a man who identifies as straight, even if he is maybe out trans man. Sometimes it's harder for them to accept me because I don't present in that normative way that a lot of straight identifying guys straight identifying guys or gays. It's harder for them to accept or love me in a sustainable way or want to be seen with me in a sustainable way, because there is some value in culture to look normal and hide in plain sight. And even though normal is a moving target and doesn't really mean anything,
Right.
because we're a consumer-based culture, it does present in a certain way. And a lot of people just want to make sure they and their partner walking down the street present in a certain way for whatever their reasons are. And so, excuse me. And so queer articulation in music is so affirming to me, because it really just speaks to the paradox of being different and unique, as well as being very much yourself. I love who I love, I want what I want, and standing strong in it, even though it's an ocean of expression. And you know how the ocean is, you're in one place in 1 second and it's so strong it pulls you in another place, but you're firm in where you are at that time. And it's just the colors of queerness and expression and artistic expression are just always so beautiful to me. I have the most fun at queer gatherings because they're so inclusive and diverse. I mean, that's the hope.
Yeah. Well, that was very lovely. Thank you. I think just to take a tiny piece of that, one of the things that's been exciting for me, literature, film, all of the arts, I think, is a way to become aware of LGBT or queerness or otherness. But music seems one of the most influential ways in our time, or even further back 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, to have those presentations in a way that people could do whatever they wanted in a 3-minute song and explore all kinds of gender and sexuality. And it wasn't always accepted. Sometimes it was shocking, but it was shocking in a way that lots of people got to see. And you look back at people like Little Richard, who may not have had quite the fame that he deserved back when he started, although he had some. And then you look at people like David Bowie, and you think of songs like Lola by the Kinks, and you think of even hairstyles and the long hair and the robes and the way Donovan dressed.
Yes.
And all of that. It revolutionized the way people saw themselves and their sexuality. And it still seems to be happening now, as those, it's like the norm is a moving target, I think is what you said. And that's true. I don't even know what the norm is anymore. I have no idea, but I know that when I look at music and the few music videos that are around, but I see musicians, you still see all this exploration of what it means to be male or female or other or non-gendered. I like that. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
are there any musicians that you listen to now that you just really are like, I really love them?
Oh gosh. Well, I am really in love with this band called Lower Dens right now. They're based in Baltimore, and they have touted themselves as being like an experimental or art rock band. That was kind of their past. But these days they have more of a commercial appeal, and you can hear them on KEXP and alternative stations. Their front woman is a woman named Jana Hunter, who identifies as gender fluid.
Okay.
But she does use the pronoun she, but she presents as very male, and her voice sounds very male, and she's got the short hair and dresses really andro. But she's written a lot of articles in women's magazines about queerness to kind of like educate people who wouldn't necessarily read about that in Vogue, for instance. She had a piece in Vogue.
Wow.
And she's been on CNN, and she's very, she talks a lot about politics. And she's very into pushing musicians back into being political. There's been this dulling down of being political, silencing. I mean, it's ruined careers over many, many years. I mean, we know all those stories, McCarthyism, etc. It's not an old idea, but, you know, because of the commercial culture and reality shows and things, which I'm actually releasing a lot of judgment about it these days. But it's just we're in an interesting zeitgeist where, you know, we're taught to consume and make our products consumable. And that's not necessarily political in the ways that are progressing the culture.
Right.
And so I really admire Lower Dens, and you can hear it in their music, especially their latest album, because they've come a little bit more full circle where they want to appeal to people commercially, still keep that art rock edge. And so their music is very filmic. They have an album out right now called Escape from Evil, dealing with some of those concepts. And I really strongly identify with Jianda also because she has problems performing. She has anxieties about performing, but she's opened her sphere of what that means to her to where it's more transformative. She wants to become a better performer so that she can better articulate the song, and that so that she can engage with the audience instead of having it just be a masturbatory experience and this is what I think and these are my feels and I don't care what you think.
Right.
You know, and I really admire this edgy, cool, art rock, inaccessible yet successful band daring to open their hearts and their windows and figure out how to be commercial without being so capitalist and how to be inclusive. I mean, watching their journey is just fascinating to me.
You mentioned an anxiety about performing?
Yes.
Do you have that?
I do have that.
You do?
I do.
I did not realize that about you.
I do. I have a lot of anxieties just about life in general.
Yeah, amen.
And music has been exceedingly therapeutic, and performing has become therapeutic because now it's more spiritual, to where I feel like these songs want to be sung and my people want to speak. My dad, who rest his soul, and my great-grandma, rest her soul. And the ways that music and art, film, all these genres of expression have given to me, I want to be able to put that out in the world and not be as attached to outcome as far as looking a certain way, but more like, if I get out there and I make this music, what will my life be like? What will I look like? I mean, I'm a caterpillar right now. I don't really know I just know what I want it to feel like.
Yeah. Wow. I'm stuck on the anxiety of performing because I have anxiety. I have anxiety before performing, like crazy. Yeah. I don't always have it, but I have it more often than not, and it can be paralyzing. I always want to back out of everything that I'm supposed to be doing, and then but while I'm performing, it feels wonderful.
Yes.
Like 85% of the time.
Yes.
It feels so good to be performing. It's an addiction to me, I think. Do you have it while you're performing too, or does it go away for you while you're performing?
Sometimes it goes away, but a lot of times it stays. But I've come to learn to surf with it and really include it and make it a part of my experience. I'm very heartened by thinking of myself as a child or how children express themselves. We didn't have anxiety as children generally, unless you grew up in a really atypical or abusive type of situation that was just nonstop. And so I know that's our nature. I know we can return to that. I know the anxiety has something to say. There's, Baudelaire, he wrote about how cities and modern culture make people anxious.
They do.
Yeah, and so we articulate that, being artist sensitive. We pick up everything, and art actually helps us process that out. Yeah. But a lot of us, we lose a lot of artists because of drugs and because of their other ways of dealing with anxiety. And so I'm just trying to let the art and the music, and also my being a fan and my seeing film that rewards me, or watching silly things, or pop culture or whatever, anything that speaks to me that I can weave into the fabric of who I am as a person, it'll inform my art and it'll make me feel more integrated as a person. And yeah, I get depressed and I get anxious sometimes, and I have a crush on this person or that person. I weave it all into what's going on instead of hiding from it. And it's a relief. It's my music now is my partner. It's my best friend now. So even though it's hard and I'm extremely anxious about it, I keep booking shows and I keep getting out there, and it's it's not an erotic thing. It's more like a spiritual or a reparative thing for me.
It's about making your life art too. That's all part of it. And so here's my little soapbox speech, which is not that related to what you said, but it's kind of related. I think that here's something that saddens me a great deal is how art is dismissed by our modern culture and especially by our education system, as the art is the first thing to be cut. It's all the arts, so film, theater, music. It gets no respect, and you have to fight for it, and it's so essential to who we are. I just don't get how we have so much more respect for, and if this floats your boat, that is totally fine. But for sports, for professional sports, for capitalist sports, we have so much more respect for that than we do for painting and opera and guitar. I don't get it. Those things are part of what make us human. They are unique to being human, and they're part of who we are, part of our community, part of our culture, part of our history, and part of how we make sense of being alive.
Right.
Why do we always get rid of it and dismiss it? I was an art major in school. And when you tell people that you're an art major, it's sort of they think of it as like, oh, because you couldn't really study anything. It's just it's like this dismissive thing. It's Lord. Like, my God, we had twice as many hours that we had to be in a class as anybody else, and it was. But yeah, it was. I don't know. That's just my little soapbox thing. But I know you studied film, right?
Yes, I did.
Tell me a little bit about that, how that came to be and what that was like.
God, I loved studying film. I studied film at UC Irvine. They have a phenomenal film theory program. At the time, it was 90% theory, 95%, not much hands-on. Now it's more integrative. But I was really there at a really cherry time, because it was during a time where we had a lot of female professors, and they were many of them were queer identified. Some of them are still there. And so just looking at film and culture through a lens queerly, through a lens queerly. It's reading, Quentin Tarantino's films, or even we watched a lot of experimental film like Kenneth Anger and Stan Brakhage and Maya Deren.
Love Maya Deren.
Just these incredible little snippets of worlds of thought and possibility from people, decades when you thought the 50s was all about just this, square culture. There was so much going on, experimental culture. And I think that really shaped me as an artist, as a thinker, as a human, just to really look at popular culture and be able to take those tools elsewhere, to not be so overwhelmed by things people are trying to sell me. And I mean that literally and metaphorically.
Right.
It's just good to have critical theory, critical thought, and especially through an artistic lens, because now art is very much a consumer tied idea.
Yeah.
Not only, but that's what we see mostly, because those folks have the money to distribute those ideas, and so you have to kind of hunt and hold fast to those underground things or those less popular things. Find them.
And you have to grab people's attention right away, or it's just easily thrown away. And that's another thing that bothers me, is it just you have to sell people right off the bat. Like, get people's attention, separate yourself. Otherwise they're just gonna click to the next thing, and there's no big payoff for that. I don't think I remember spending months and months, if not years, waiting to see a film that I had read about and having no access to it. And it was this big journey to finally get to a art house theater or a film festival where I could get to see something. That was so exciting. It was such an adventure. And the whole process of it was part of it. Now you just like pick up your phone. What's the name of that? And you click on it. It's like, oh, and they watch it on this tiny little screen. Oh, yeah, that's not that good. So, but did you ever see the films of James Broughton by any chance? The poet? Oh my God, they're amazing. So he was a queer man that he was actually married for a brief time to Pauline Kael, the film critic. And he also made experimental films. And there's a film about him, a documentary that was made about 2 years ago called Big Joy, which I highly, highly, highly suggest. It's great. Yeah, he made some great films. They're similar to like Maya Deren and some of the other people of that era.
Fantastic.
I love that period. I love experimental films, and I love the ones from the 50s and 60s. I think the best. So
yes.
Have you made films yourself?
I have not yet. I do want to explore that.
Put me in them.
Yeah. So okay. Oh God, that's incentive. I have written a couple screenplays.
Have you?
Yeah. So
cool.
I could dust that off.
Oh, I love that idea. I that's what I really wanted to study was film. I wanted to be a film director, and I started studying drama, and I didn't like the people who were studying drama. And
there's still time.
There's still time. Yeah, I'd love to pick up and do that. It'd be fun. But I love film. Film is great. Film is like a combination of so many of the arts together. It's the visual, it's the sound, it's the experience, the heartfelt experience. It's using all these different people that you have to organize. I don't know if I'd have the patience now to do that, to work with so many different people. You do visual art too?
A little bit. I paint in acrylics, but not as well practiced as I'd like to be, but I enjoy that too.
Do you show your work?
I was thinking of getting into that. I have never really shown it before.
Let's do it together.
Okay.
Let's find a place where we can do a group show.
All right, let's do it.
All right, everybody, you got to pay attention to that. We're going to do it. We're going to have a group show. That'd be fun.
I would love that.
That'd be really fun. So just walk us through a typical day. What is your typical day like? I just want to get to know who you are as a person. And you don't have to give details that people don't need to know. But what's your typical day like? I'm
really delighted you asked me that question because when you were chatting with Eric and I rushed in from work and for a minute I was really upset, and then I remembered I have this whole new approach to life that includes work, making work and challenges and the city's anxiety producing incidents that occur everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
I just weave it into my music now. And I really gravitate to the term working artist. And there's a literal meaning to that and a figurative meaning to that. And I've really given up searching for grants and funding, and I'm trying to be that benefactor for myself in whatever way is possible. So I'm embracing the 9 to 5 in a certain way and trying to stay awake and aware and using it as a dojo instead of just clocking in and clocking out. And I get a lot of realizations there. I should probably be somewhat reserved about saying that I take notes and things, but it's not about what goes on at work or confidential stuff. Right. It's more like realizations that come up that are personal to me. So I work 6 days a week now.
Wow.
Yeah, at a customer service job. And then I go home and I make music. I play music for maybe an hour or two, mostly every evening, but sometimes I'll skip. And the times that I skip, I've recorded so much music that I'll go through my music. And I've been posting music on websites just to get in the habit of knowing that I can be prolific. No matter the quality of the work, I can be prolific. And then I can cherry pick the songs that I can perform later. Because that's generally my week. I haven't really started performing until recently and meeting you, so it doesn't even involve performing as much as it's going to start involving that. Yeah, well, you're going to be doing a lot of performing. Yes. Your name is up there. Where can people see you perform? What do you have coming up? I have a show on February the 4th with Garlic Man and is it Chicken? Garlic Man and Chicken at the Wild Rose. I love them, my daughters. That's my upcoming show, and then I also have a solo show coming up at Capitol Cider. I believe it's March 9th. It's a Wednesday. I believe it's the 9th, but it's just me doing a full 2 45-minute sets. Wow.
and that's up on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, on Capitol Hill.
I got to get to that.
Either way, there'll be more shows, and I have a little trepidation, but it's also exciting because I'm so used to doing cover songs. I'm really trying to push myself to just really do my originals. I could do cover songs for like 4 or 5 hours. Like, I'm definitely a pro at that. But doing my own stuff, that's a whole other flavor of experience. So I'm going to be debuting my own songs.
That's exciting.
I'm so blessed. And my day is also atypical because my father passed away a little over a year ago.
I'm so sorry.
I am as well, and I also feel happy that he was able to transition because he was in a lot of pain. We did a lot of caretaking for him for many years, and it was time. And before he passed, it was very hard for me to write anything. I only had maybe 5 songs on guitar, and then I started doing some electronic music, but I just was in a very dry period. And it seems like after he passed, I write, anywhere between 1 and 5 songs a day.
That's
or
crazy.
Poems, spoken word, and it's like ever flowing. And so my day really involves recording these things and publishing them, putting them out there.
That's great.
Yeah, I love it. It's compelling. I feel compelled to put them out there because it feels very much beyond me now.
Yeah.
I don't know about profundity or anything like that. Like, art is so subjective in ways, so that's not for me to judge. It's more just like, what a gift.
Yeah. Do you ever collaborate with other musicians?
Not enough. Not enough. I have one musician friend in New York. His name's Tom Giardini, and we're working on some experimental pieces, but it's pretty virtual. I have shied away from that over time. I found that working with bands is very much sort of just the typical music industry story. People kind of borrow your ideas and then they'll go get their record deals and they don't always come back to get you.
Right.
Or, don't give you as much credit and maybe pay you one time and then they go off on tour. And I don't really know about the machinations of the business part to really want to put myself out there like that anymore. Also, I find that with bands, often family dynamics can take place, and some people deal with them in a more compassionate way than others. And so I'd rather just spend that time learning to love myself and cultivate myself and figure out the business of music by myself. Or with Tom. Tom's a real trusted collaborator, and we have a really compassionate connection. And we're not rushing anything. It's very organic, and so it feels very safe. Yeah. And that's rare to collaborate. I'm always open, but I find that I'm really working on honing my discernment so that I can make it a rewarding experience for both.
Well, I'd love to hear anything that you do. I love your music. I love your voice. I love your guitar playing. I love your gift. I love your talent. And I look forward to seeing you. And we're unfortunately we're running out of time because I would like to talk to you more. So we'll have you back too.
Heck
but we're
yeah.
going to be performing together again. I know. We've already done 3 shows.
I think we've done 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll do more, and I'll be at your shows. What I'd like to know as we're kind of wrapping up here is and it doesn't have to be music related. It doesn't have to be related to anything. I would just like to know a handful of things that delight you.
Ooh. Nature delights me. Being out in nature, or even flowers, anything that just reminds me of nature. Spirituality delights me. How people express that, especially when it really obviates they're doing that for the highest good. Fascinations delight me. Fascinations with people or creativity. Fascinations with love, compassion, things like that. And I'm finding that challenge is starting to delight me because I'm letting it make love to me now. I'm incorporating it in everything I do, and I'm not hiding from it anymore. And so it's a really challenging relationship to be open to challenge and not be so afraid of fear anymore. So that's delighting me lately too.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this. I love talking to you. I love seeing you.
I love seeing you too. Pleasure.
And I look forward to everything that you have. I want to thank the Pocket Theater once again for letting us have this conversation. and I hope that people continue to listen. If you want more of this experience in a different format, the Gay Uncle Time is a live show the first Wednesday of each month. It's held at the Jewel Box Theater of the Rendezvous in Belltown, Seattle. Very different from the podcast, so you're not going to get a repeat. And I have special guests and a different theme each month. I also do a quarterly show in West Seattle at the beautiful Skylark Tavern called Westside Glory. You'll have to find me online. Best way to do that is Facebook, either at Jeffrey Robert or looking up the Gay Uncle Time or looking at me on Twitter or wherever fine performance people are. Growler. Where you have to pay to publicize things. But that's such is life. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with some more fascinating conversation. Thank you all very much.